Hello, Culture Matters podcast. I'm so excited for our episode today. Before I introduce you to our guest, here is a quote just for this episode. Do what you can with what you have, where you are. Theodore Roosevelt. Today, I have a friend joining me on the Culture Matters podcast who I watched do what they could with what they had, where they were. Not only are they the director of finance for an awesome company, MP Parts, they're a friend of Culture Matters because we actually experienced, I would say, like a once in a lifetime immersive leadership. I'll let them explain their interpretation as well. Coaching experience together last year, actually. And what I saw was someone who had courage, passion, and empathy for other people, and me included. So, without further ado, Dan Bartemus, thanks for coming on the Culture Matters podcast to talk culture, leadership, maybe some numbers too, and a little improv.
Yeah, oh God. Yeah. Well, if we do that, I'll do my best to do what I can with what I have. But it's great to see you, Jay. This is a real pleasure. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. And it's the Culture Matters podcast, right? So I remember why, where we were and why I went to the Hope Farm. But just for the audience that doesn't know that we're in this little group here, what was Hope Farm to you, and why did you choose, unless you didn't choose and you were forced to
Yeah,
to go and participate in that, what do you call it? An immersive experience, a leadership experience?
it's really hard to define exactly what it is, but I think that's a good place to start. I mean, the way that you really have to dig in and make the choice when you get to Hope Farm under the direction of the great Michael Olaso. And you can't go in 1 foot in the door. If you don't go, if you don't dive all the way in, you will not get the full experience. It's like anything in life. And I think what I got most out of that weekend was um, because it was so far outside the box of anything that I had ever done and was comfortable doing, and still showed up. Yeah, it couldn't be more awkward because other than Michael, I didn't know a soul there. And you know, you're just put in a very vulnerable position from not knowing people and having no acting background, being handed a 4 or 5 page script by Michael on Thursday night and saying, "Hey, Saturday night, the stage is yours." And so again, I made the choice. Hey, this is not in my wheelhouse, but I think if I conquer this weekend, then I can conquer a lot of things that I've long battled low self esteem throughout my life, and I think um, in some ways that has made me a much better person, a much better father, much better man, much better coworker, and I felt like if I could come out the other side that weekend, I could really, you know, experience some incredible gains, and I certainly did. And I left that retreat feeling like a new person in a lot of ways, and feeling like I made whatever it was 14, 15 new best
Wow.
friends, and yourself included. It's very intimate, and it's very given the vulnerability. That's just kind of how you feel after everyone experiences it together. So a little bit long winded, but yeah, that's
I have I've had doubts and convinced myself out of a lot of things that would have been good for me. Was there a word track you went to? I'm thinking our listeners might be in front of a challenge right now
yeah.
that they know they should do it, but they might be talking themselves out of it. Did you have any moment where you almost didn't go for it, that you talked yourself into it? Or did you have a word track that you went to, or do you when
I
you're doing
I
uncomfortable things?
I can honestly say um, I've never had trouble, or I've never had a lack of people, let's say, who have believed in me and shown incredible belief in me. The biggest problem is my belief in myself and what I'm able to accomplish. Kind of going back to the low self-esteem thing. Why I battled that, I can't tell you. But the reason I was there was I'm a member of Vistage, and Michael Alasso came, and he was the Vistage speaker for the day. This was in April of 2025,
Wow.
and you know, you've spent time with Michael. Michael has been on this show, if I have that correct. And
Yeah,
so
maybe 5 times.
yeah, and so you kind of get it when you get in with Michael. There's like a back and forth that um, that just materializes. I think from his background, and that the people that he has such an incredible gift of identifying the best of people
Mm.
and bringing out the best in people, and his ability to go. We were in a room that day of maybe 40 people, and he had some feedback, direct, specific feedback for each and every individual that he just met. He knew everyone's name. It was like one of his main things is stop saying I can't remember people's names. I remember because it's like the things we feed ourselves, right? And he
Yeah,
walked in
Rob,
that
you're
room,
right.
yeah, commanded it, and he knew everyone's names. And so anyway, um, he had after the experience, we had like a pretty entertaining back and forth throughout the 3 hours that he was with us, and he had mentioned out loud in front of the entire group, like it would really it would hurt me if we never worked together again, and I want you to come to my retreat. So then we spoke after, and he's my boss and the owner of my company is was in the CEO group at the time, and I said, hey, if it's not a cheap thing, so but it's something that could help me and my company. And so I said, if you want me to do that, talk to my boss. You'll meet him tomorrow. And he did, and my boss was very gracious and said, say no more. He's all yours. So I to go back to your original question, I didn't really, once Michael had really you know spoke to me and said, you're someone who will benefit so greatly from this retreat, and here's why. And it was like and he's so radiant. It's like I had to
Yeah.
spend more time with him the same way he felt like he had to spend more time with me. And so I never gave it a second thought. It was just a matter of, can we do it or not?
I also have low self-esteem.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because he gave me, as I mentioned, the that final night when we all do our monologues and go through the scripts. You talk to his assistant Wendy in an interview beforehand to kind of figure out, hey, why are you here? Why are you coming here? What are you hoping to get out of this? And he very tactically takes those videos and those answers from everyone and hands out those monologues based on your responses. And I was very upfront again about kind of my low self-esteem and some other things I was hoping to get out of it. And of course, Michael gives me the what I think he has confirmed is the longest script. And so yeah, he handed that to me in that first night. I was like, oh my God, how am I going to make this work in 48 hours? And so yeah, I mean everything he does is very intentional. And so maybe you could speak a little bit, to because I can't quite remember what your final
Oh,
monologue was,
Glomov
like
and
the actual
Cleopatra.
script. If you can remind me, but I remember everybody knocked it out of the park. I mean, literally, there was not one weak link in that weekend. And so, if you can just remind me what yours was.
Glaumov and Cleopatra.
That's right. That's right.
He was like,
So I don't know how he got to that for you specifically, but that I did find it,
we
you
might have
know,
to do like bring a couple of my therapists in here for that.
yeah, 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 exactly.
What was it like to stand in front of a group? Now, had you ever done public speaking before or anything where you were faced in front of a group?
Yeah, I think plenty of that. Just from my work experience, I would not, I wouldn't say a different atmosphere, but you get in front of New York executives, and because I previously worked in hotel finance, so if I had to, in monthly P&L meetings with ownership, whether
Mm.
that was in Dubai or New York, I was an assistant director at the time, so I didn't have to do the lion's share of speaking, but there were things that I would have to get up and clarify for the director at that time, and just got very comfortable, I guess, that way. And everybody, I think one of the most humiliating experiences for most people is, I don't recall if it was a requirement, but I definitely had to take it. Being a communication major, I had to take a public speaking course freshman year in college, and that was incredibly difficult. But you start there, and you just, you build from there. And I think I've been pretty comfortable, but it's more with the intent of what you're at the retreat to do, which is something that is not, again, in the wheelhouse of really anybody there. I don't think there's any pure actors or anything like that. And it's a very collaborative weekend. Like all I've talked about is monologue. I mean, the other really 90% of it is you're working with at least one other individual. And how many group exercises did we do? And you never worked with the same group twice. It was
Mm.
just so it's really, the discomfort is, I got to bring the script to life, or you know there was smaller scripts that very almost mundane from like a what's on the page, where we talked a little bit before, the red feather scene. I'm just saying the same thing 20 times on this little bitty, maybe 2 minute little uh, thing that we're acting out, and my only line is red feather, but I've got to bring that word and the purpose of how I interpreted that
Mm.
script to life, and that's very uncomfortable because I have no experience. So I think, the public speaking thing, not so difficult, but what I'm doing when I'm in front of the entire room, very uncomfortable.
When it comes to being a director of finance, what does that mean? And what role, what function does that bring to a company, the culture, in your point of view? Why does it matter? Why is it significant?
Well, I mean, you think about it, it's, look, money is not everything, but it's also kind of the lifeblood of everything. And so, between the cash flow forecasting, I mean, we have a 12-month forecast that that I update monthly. So it's like, hey, where are we today? But where, more importantly, where's it looking like where we're going to be in a year from now? And I know that there's, much bigger companies that run 5-year forecast down the line, things like that. So it's really just, I think if you're in this seat and you do it right, you can figure out how to grow a company, um, and stabilize. Mainly when growth comes with certain, obviously, growing pains, and you need to be the stabilizer. And I think, really, to me, the ultimate voice of reason, because I think there's a lot of people in leadership seats. You've got marketing, you've got client fulfillment, and there's all different. You got ownership. Who, my boss is an entrepreneur. He says all the time, I've got a lot of ideas and a lot of them are bad. And so, I think one of my
Wow.
primary jobs in the company is to, again, be that voice of reason. They call me Discernment Dan at the company. They do. So yeah, we did Working Genius. We used to give that out to anyone who, when we would hire them, um, and it kind of gives you your two geniuses, two areas that you're kind of in the middle, and then two working frustrations. And my two geniuses were, and I'm blanking, I'm forgetting the T, but discernment was my genius, and I think
Trust?
it's tactical or
Oh,
something like that. Um, and so, yeah, I think that those are the strengths that I bring. But yeah, it's from a finance perspective, yeah, money's not everything, but if you're investing in the wrong things and you're not forecasting properly, and I think approaching things from a realistic point of view, like, hey, we'd like to do this, we want to be here, but what's reasonable? Reality on reality's terms, and that's how I like to operate.
Why is it important to know where you're going, like with the forecasting?
Well, because I think without an idea, I mean, without an idea of where you've been and what your plans are for, like, we when I got to the company, I think the company did $8 million in revenue the first year that I was there for closing, which was 2020. 2024 at the close, we were up to 17 million a year, and
Wow.
so in that year, sorry, and so we more than doubled in just in a 4 year span, and we've hit a little bit of a we've kind of leveled off a little bit these last 2 years, or year and a half. And so I think why it's important to know I'm sorry, your question was why is it important to know where you're going?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, we have every company has an idea of what the vision is and what the purpose of the company is. And I think without acknowledging where you are and where you have been, and looking ahead with reasonable projections of where things will land. Certainly, if we implement X, Y, and Z, hey, if we initiate this, how will that feed us? I think it's really hard to grow without having that ability to look at where you're at, but also look out and say, hey, it's kind of like life. Like, where are we going to be, and where are we going to be in a year? What's the goal, and how do we get there? And if we do this, what will that add to the top line and our margins? And and then when you get there, how can we grow from there? So
Mm, mm.
hopefully that answers the
Yeah.
question. But
Like the how becomes more possible with looking
and
back and
yeah,
looking
and,
forward.
and clear. I think it clears if done effectively, it will bring clarity to how you can get there and what the end game will be.
But it sounds like your role is to make sure it's coming from reason, not just euphoria
Cor- Correct.
or even
Cor-
negativity if the world is hard, feels harder at that time.
Correct. Yeah, it because there's not finance is pretty cut and dry. It's just what is there. I think if you have an emotional, feelings based director of finance, I don't know. I don't know how well
Oh, what yeah, what could happen with
I don't
that?
know how well that would work. Yeah, I think the feelings are for everyone else, and it's on the leader in your finance department to really, either say, "Hey, that's a great idea. I think we can do that," or "Look, let's take a step back. Here's reality, um, and maybe we can get there, but it might take X number of months or something." But yeah, I think if you've worked for an entrepreneur before, you'll know what I'm talking about. And again, he's very upfront about, hey, I've and by the way, the success of the company in a lot of ways is from that spirit of, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to do it now. This company was born during the Great Recession in 2008, after my owner Brandon Seiler and his father worked for the same company, lost their jobs,
Wow.
and decided to open the company. And I think it was Johnson City, Wisconsin, um, and in their garage. And so, it started from nothing, and has become a pretty successful company. And I think that's something that I, I wouldn't, I don't know. I was going to say I got there kind of at the midway point, but they were around about 12 years when I got there. But kind of I'd say the midpoint of the ascension is what it feels like. I got there, and I'm pretty proud of what we've been able to accomplish over the last almost 6 years.
What from a core value standpoint, or what's you know, how we do things around here that really has created and is a part of that.
Yeah,
What's the take of the organization? What do you guys stand for?
sure. So yeah, our brand promises in every interaction with our clients, we will make sure that they feel a sense of belonging and a peace of mind. And I think that, one quote that's referenced, it's in our, in our company handbook is from Jeff Bezos. He says, "Your brand is what other people say when you're not in the room."
Hmm.
And and so I think, with a lot of in our industry, and so what we do is we sell truck parts to concrete mixers and into the heavy duty trucking industry. We also sell concrete plants. Um, but our primary customer, about 90% of our business, is in the concrete industry. And so, you know, obviously there's a lot of ways that you can source your parts, and but I think, one thing about us is we don't really, the ambition for us is not to be an online retail company. Like we want to be the company that you call and you're going to get someone on the other end, that can feel your pain, what you're going through. You got a truck down, great. What, or not great, but how can we help? What do you need?
Hmm.
How can we get it to you as quickly as we possibly can? And one of our great strengths is a very long list of vendors that we have throughout the United States. We're getting more into international sourcing as well, and so we've got a lot of the parts on our shelves that I think a lot of other companies don't have direct access to. And so, but again, yeah, it's just about when they do call. Again, someone's going to pick up, someone's going to be on the other line, and we're going to, again, give you that sense of belonging and the peace of mind that, hey, whatever it is that you're going through, we're going to see it through, and we're going to make sure that we correct that issue for you.
What are some of the things that people go through? You're saying truck, is it truck drivers?
Yeah. So like if a concrete truck is down, like let's say a concrete truck breaks down, or they whether it be again, finance guy, I can't really speak to the issue directly, but I would just say it's,
Culture.
whether it is a truck down thing, or you need more inventory for you, or whatever it is that they need. I mean, I'd say the primary issue for sure, why I use that example, is, when a truck goes down for a day. I mean, the number of dollars lost in a day for a company with the truck down is in the thousands. I mean, it's several $1,000s, and so that's obviously a huge snag for that company, and it puts a lot of stress on not only them but their customer. And and so
Like
I
a
think
domino.
that's the primary, you know and it's a very fast moving, it's the construction industry ultimately, and you know their deadlines are, as strict as any in some cases. And so it's, hey, maybe the truck's not down, but hey, we're going to need these parts, and we're going to, we need them tomorrow. Do you have them in stock? Are they on your shelves? Can you get it to us tomorrow? And that's something that you know I would say, from, like, the next day air situations, it's not always the best situation for us, but that's, we'll take a hit from time to time in order to get a customer out of a bind.
Why is the customer so important?
Well, without the customer, what are we? I mean, that's and I think you start there, but then if when you deliver for a customer on that level, when they're in a bind. I mean, think of just yourself and your life. Think of the people who have shown up for you and your worst moments, your most troubled moments, when you needed a break more than anyone. I'm probably getting a little too deep for the example, but what I'm trying to say is, you know, when we deliver on that level and pour into our customers when they're on the phone, empathize with their situation, and ultimately get them what they need to get back on the road and pouring concrete. Um, we like the chances of those customers calling us back when they're whether they're in that situation or not. I mean, I think that's pulling through in difficult situations like that is how you get you know a customer, a one-time buyer to someone who's spending 50 grand a year with you. And that's our goal. That's how we identify our top customers. That $50,000 in a year is
Wow.
sort of the beginning of, we call them huckleberries.
So it's less about even they're buying a part than the confidence that this is you're going to be there to
Right. Because
uh,
because
deliver.
exactly, because in some respects, your shop owner could hop on the internet and do it himself and in a lot of ways. But I think that's what separates us is the personal relationship. And um, again, going through whatever it is that they need from us, going through that with them, and you know kind of showing that we care, and that making them feel like there's nothing more important right now than this situation for this customer. Again, I think it's a pretty powerful thing, and I think it's why we've become and stayed a successful company.
What does belonging look like when you're out of inventory, customers upset, um, maybe a mistake was made, under pressure?
Yeah, yeah. I, I would say, and I don't want to speak fully for our sales reps, but just I would say, I mean, because they're the ones that face all the pressure here, right? I would say what it looks like. It's just really going a mile past the extra mile. To one of our five culture defining behaviors is make it, take it. Um, Meaning, again, every interaction with clients and people on the team is personal. Listening with the intent to engage and understanding and taking ownership of the results, and doing that a mile past the extra mile. And so I think showing that care and really really doing whatever it is that we have to do to source these parts and get them to our customers as quickly as we possibly can. And not just saying, we don't have that on the shelf. Wish there was something we can do for you. Well, there is something we can do for you, and we're gonna do everything we can to do that.
You think people trust you because you're right as much as because you bring stability
Um, I would
or
say that
steadiness?
I was gonna say. Now, are you talking me individually or
Yeah,
the company
yeah,
itself?
more. Well, I'm curious both, but I guess that the first thought was you.
Yeah. Um, I think my track record's pretty good, is what I would say. Of I'm not right all the time, but I'm a pretty darn good forecaster. I also I think something I picked up from my grandfather and my father. They both had an unbelievable ability to read people, read a room, and I think emotional intelligence. I don't have many killer strengths, but I'd say like one superpower is emotional intelligence, and I think the ability to read people quickly, and I don't want to say intent because that's maybe that's too much, but I think just having a pretty good grasp after maybe whether in interviews or when we're in a situation with a vendor or a customer, kind of sitting in a room and talking to them for 20 minutes and kind of getting a feel for what this conversation is really about. Because a lot of times what you're talking about isn't, and especially in the corrective phase, is not what the actual issue is. And so I think that's kind of been a gift of mine. And again, I just think the batting average is pretty high when I'm giving in my 6 years here with giving advice to this owner, my president, who I report to, and and the rest of the team. And so, um, I'm a Yankee fan, so I know who I wanted up to bat during the dynasty. It's the Derek Jeters, the Jorge Posadas, the Bernie
Huh.
Williams. I'm going way back here. I hope you have some baseball fan listeners, but guys who pulled through consistently and in the biggest moments. And so, yeah, I would say that just that consistency and the when I got here, when I got to the company, the books were the they needed to be cleaned up financially.
Entrepreneurship.
It needed to be cleaned up, and so I think coming in and getting us to a good place.
Now you sound like my wife, but she
Yeah,
talks to our strategy
yeah,
firm. When I met Jay, dot,
yeah,
dot, dot,
right. Yeah, right. Yeah, and I believe that.
I think I'm different than your founder. Every idea I have is a great idea. Every idea, it all
Yeah,
makes money.
yeah,
He
exactly.
sounds like a humble guy. I could work on a few things, I think.
Yeah, well, and I same here. I think
That's funny.
there are situations where in my seat it can get a little heavy because too often I kind of feel like the wet blanket. You walk into a room and it's constantly, I don't know, guys, no, or just really, I'm just usually the one you're just always delivering bad news a lot of the time, and so, but it's got to be something that's being the villain in the company. Well, I mean, I feel appreciated, but often, um, accounting is just kind of looked at as the villain because we're the ultimate gatekeeper, and so the rush to say yes or that euphoria that you spoke of earlier. You walk into a room and you're all excited to express that, and then I sit there and I'm like, yeah, I see where you're coming from, but I don't think that's going to work for us right now. Like that's to have to do that over and over again. You've got to be someone that's comfortable doing that, and not giving into I guess the adult peer pressure of, hey, we want to do this now. Like, I mean, again, you've got to be the voice of reason in the room. And I think that's something that
Well,
I've always been
it
better at.
didn't look like an iceberg. It just looked like a little. Are you, I don't know, the movie Titanic?
Yeah,
There's a little, it didn't look
yeah,
like an iceberg. It was just a little ice. Oh, there's this iceberg underneath the water.
right. What's that photo that's in every doctor's office? Um, it's something like the problem's not always on the surface, and you see this little tip of an iceberg, and then under that, you see under the water, and it's this iceberg that's a mile long that's heading toward the ocean floor. And so, but of course, we don't see that, and yeah, so I think that's actually a pretty good analogy.
What advice do you have for our listeners around, presenting facts, presenting reality, having those conversations that can be, um, maybe the content makes it difficult because we're all having them
Yeah,
in business. Our listeners that are in entrepreneurship, working with companies, what's worked throughout your career, what hasn't. I'm even thinking of like Hope Farm. Has that experience helped in that?
for sure, for sure. And I would just say, before diving into the whole farm side, I think just you got to have conviction. You've got to be convicted on what you're telling people, because guess what? If you walk into a room of other leaders and your owner, and you're you're talking about something that you don't fully believe, people are going to be able to pick up on that. And so you just my advice would be, you need to, a you need to work to prove yourself to be right, and do that before you get in the room with everyone. Make sure you're going into a meeting with clear evidence of, hey, we want to do this. Well, sorry, it's not going to work, and here's why. Or, hey, I think we should do this. I know you guys don't love the idea, but here's why I think it could help us move forward. And so I think conviction's the biggest thing, and not so much so that you're the only voice in the room that you hear. I mean, I think you need to be open. You need to for sure need to be open. But I think in terms of you asked me what's helped me get there. I can be proven wrong, but I'm never going to walk into a room unprepared and not feeling conviction
Oh,
around what advice I'm giving you.
what is preparation? What advice do you have for our listeners around preparation? What does that word mean to you? How does one know that they're prepared?
Um, well, it's a little it's tough, I guess, based on what it is you're doing, but it's I think we all know what it looks like. I mean, you got to put time in, and and a little bit of this goes into you got to be an expert in your world. You got to, or at least you got to sell yourself that you're that, so you can sell other people that. And I think you hear the 10,000 hours before you become an expert at something. So the only way you can get there is by consistently working, learning. I mean, constantly filling yourself with material that will elevate you in your space, whatever that is. But it's as simple as saying, how did you know you were prepared for a test in high school? Um, did you study for a few hours? Did you study for a few minutes? Did you study for a few days? If you studied for a few days prior, you were probably ready. If you
But
studied
you
for a
know
few
you're
minutes
not.
before, and my brother was salutatorian in his class, he could do that. Some people can, but for the most part, you're not going to be prepared if you're not putting the time in. And again, that time will make you an expert in your field. And I think, but again, are you ready for double sessions when they start? I played football growing up. I mean, how'd you show up to camp day one? Were you sucking wind 30 minutes in, or were you ready to go? Were you ready for the grueling summers? We all know what preparation looks like. And so I would say the key is, I guess, over prepare. I mean, in really important meetings or when we're making really important decisions here, I can't walk into a meeting or give any advice without knowing that all my I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And, just prepare for every question that you think could be asked of you. Um, and then try to think of five more um, before you go in, or in
Mm.
terms of preparing for whatever it is that you're going through in your world and your space.
Let's say somebody watched you for 6 months. What would they conclude or think that you believe about people?
Um, believe about people how, like, and what, and you know what I mean, like, what is just in general, or yeah, I don't know. Sorry, maybe I'm making more of this than I need to, but
I think that no, I think it's a perfect question. It that may be the best answer
mm.
from the finance director of finance, right? What's right? It's like what is, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I like to think that I believe the best in people. I mean, in general, I like to I like to start from a place of trust, and I will trust you until you give me a reason not to. And I think 90% of the time, I think that trust has been verified. I mean, we've all been burned, right? But um, and then I also I think as humans, I think we all kind of want a lot of the same things. Like political differences kind of take us one place or another. But at the end of the day, I think we're all shooting for the same thing, and that's to thrive and to prosper and to um, make an impact while we're here. I really do believe every single person wants to make an impact in some way, shape, or form, whether that's in the workplace or impacting their kids at home or whatever it may be. Um, and I think some of the more, some of the more ambitious impacts that can be made, it's those people, those are typically made by people who take risks, take chances, have full belief and faith in themselves and in their ability to affect change. And then I think for the other people, it's like my subordinates and other people in my company that are trying to climb the ladder. All right, what is this person's strengths, and how can I help them get to where they want to be? Because I would not be here without um, a number of mentors, dating all the way back to high school athletics, through college professors, through um, bosses, and I mean, I got my degree in journalism, so
Wow, that's
I
awesome.
could I barely passed course one math in high school. I think it was more of a how much work did I want to put in? Again, how much did I want to spend time prepare? I watched my brother for uh, 12 years barely open a book, but he had a 96 average, so I thought I could do the same thing. Well, that wasn't it. So I figured out pretty quick once I got to college, I got to put the work in. And so anyhow, the journalism route didn't work out, but I got an opportunity at the Starwood Marriott at the W Hotel in Washington D.C. and started out in their operations, proved myself, learned the systems, learned how money flowed just from working and at just a front desk job. And I was going a little crazy after 2 years of doing that, and I think they knew I was probably going to see myself out, and they said, "Well, hey, there's a staff accountant position opening up in the accounting office. We know you don't have an accounting background, but we know that the systems to a T. You know how the money flows here. If you want it, you'll have to interview for it, but you're going to get the job." And so that was the it was a chance I had to take, but it was an opportunity. And then from there, it's my old boss in operations became the assistant GM at a boutique property that was opening up in the northwest part of the city. They needed an assistant director of finance. I was absolutely not qualified or prepared for the job at that time. He said, just interview for it. I interviewed for it. I got the job. And I had a great mentor who was the director there who walked me along. And then, so after 6 years of that, I was ready to sit in the seat I'm in now. And so, um, yeah, I don't really know how I even got to this part of the story, but I guess I'd just say, you know, what is it? Luck is when preparation and opportunity meet, I believe. And an old mentor of my high school told me that. And I think just keep working on yourself to become the best version of yourself and be ready when opportunities present themselves. Because that's basically how I've gotten here. It's really in a lot of ways it's nonsense to be where I am. So yeah, I feel very blessed.
Doing monologues, meeting executives at Hope Farm, and now the potential journalist has become a guest on the Culture Matters podcast. My friend Dan Bartemus, thank you so much for coming on our show. I got more questions. We'll have to do it for next time.
I would love
I
that.
really appreciate you coming on the Culture Matters podcast. And yeah, that was a very inspiring ending. If you're listening to this episode, I would share this with a friend, someone that you care about. And we will see you next time on the Culture Matters podcast. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Jay.